So let's ask Sylvia. I actually read several of her books, but before we get into the books, let's ask her, what was her childhood like?
Well, she says, darling, back when I was a kid, we didn't have a whole lot. Uh, Times were tough. It was the 30s, 40s, and there wasn't much around. Growing up, I always had quite the precocious personality, and there were many times when my parents didn't know what to do with me. Um, but the household was loving in its own way. Yeah, it was a good thing growing up.
So you had a happy childhood then? Would you consider it to be a happy childhood?
Mm. Please keep in mind I'm giving you answers from the perspective of the other side. Having said that, please also know that I know from over here that everything I was supposed to learn I did over there. Was it a happy childhood? I'm sure not by many people's standards, but it taught me what I needed to know to bring me where I needed to be to do what I was supposed to do. So happy? I'm sure there could have been plenty other of words that would have described my childhood. But from this side, from this perspective now, I consider it to not have been all bad.
Did you have your gifts when you were a child?
Yeah, I did. It wasn't like I could just come out and talk about it because when I tried to, I was pretty much pushed aside. And that part of the childhood that others wouldn't refer to as being happy. Um, I was alone a lot, and there was a lot of times I communicated with spirit. And when I would say something to the adults, uh, it didn't come with a good reaction. So I stopped talking to the adults, and I had my pretend friends, which of course were my spirit friends. And I got to tell the difference a little later on as I was growing up, that my friends didn't see them the same way I saw them. So that was my first inkling that it was perhaps spirit. I could feel energy. You start to go on with life and you know that this is there. It does get distracting when life happens, but eventually it comes back. So, yes, I did. I have been aware of this gift my entire life, just about. Um, did I pay attention to it and focus on it? Not until I was in my, 20s, 30s.
Okay. And I missed that. I'm sorry, the internet kind of hiccuped. Did you say 20s?
I acknowledged it, let me say, when I was in my 20s. I started developing it. And then into my 30s, it became stronger. Um, so I've been aware of it. It faded for a little bit, when you start to have life come in. And then it came back into its own where I acknowledged it and was aware of the gift as well.
Oh, okay. And so when did you come out of the closet?
It wasn't until I was in my 30s because this kind of stuff back then was not spoken of. It was very taboo. As a matter of fact, you would have thought that from a lot of people's point of view, especially the Southern Baptists, that I was devil worshiper or witch to be burned at the stake. So I came out of the closet. I want in my 30s. So Baby steps is what I took, and it wasn't always received well. But um, the more validation I got from spirit, the less I cared about how it was received, and I started to just tell people and not care. I was a bit callous about the messages. It wasn't well received, but that was a part of my learning process.
So how did your parents react when you came out?
They were not happy. No, they were not happy. And my dad, in particular, um, he thought that I should be put in an institution. He thought I was mental.
Oh no.
My mother, she thought she could pray it away. Um, yeah, so they weren't really accepting of my gift, and that was a hard point in my life. Mm, my people considered me to be kind of callous once I attained notoriety because I just put it out there, honey. I'm just telling you. I did. I said it like I heard it, and that's because of so many years of people telling me I was crazy. Well, what kept my sanity during that time was validation from spirit, my absolute knowing that I was hearing spirit and what I was supposed to be hearing. And that's what kept me going, but it also gave my attitude that I know what I'm hearing and fuck you. I don't care if you think that I don't care what you think. I don't think care if you think it's my imagination because I know what I hear. And that's how I got my callous attitude a little later in life.
Right. Well, it makes sense coming from that background that you would have that attitude, you know?
It wasn't highly accepted. I owe a lot to Edgar Casey. He really opened a lot of doors. People were fascinated by that. And for hell's sake, the life of me, what is the damn difference? Okay, so he goes to sleep and he channels. I'm awake and I channel. Whatever. I'm glad he opened the doors, but it didn't make any good sense to me why people would judge one as different from the other.
Right, exactly. Well, now that you're there, um, maybe you can figure that out. What do you get when you ask that?
Well, I figured it out, and it's all part of the learning process. And here's what I really have to tell everybody: we're all in this gigantic tapestry. Each one of us are a tiny little thread that makes up this gigantic big picture. And each one of us are integral to making this beautiful big picture. The color of the fabric, the color of our thread, the color of the thread of each soul is a different hue depending on their learning process. And when the learning process is early and the hues are light, they just haven't come to a place of non fear. So, not only, was Edgar asleep so they couldn't hold him accountable, or that's what they thought, but he was also a man.
Yep, I was going to bring that up.
So, back in that day, because it was, way back in the days of black and white TV, um, it wasn't acceptable for women to do anything but fucking cook in the kitchen and raise kids and send them to school and get them off. So that's another reason. People just weren't ready for women to be strong personalities like I was, and they weren't ready for spirituality and mediumship and speaking with spirit coming from a woman, many people weren't ready for it coming from a man. But it did open the door.
Yeah, and we can be thankful for that, that's for sure. Were there any, like during the time that you were younger, I wasn't born yet. Were there any psychics that you looked up to, or anybody that you looked up to that wasn't Edward Casey?
Well, back in that day, televisions were scarce, especially where I grew up, right? They were just starting out anyway. You didn't like have this that you could stand up in front of the shop and go, ooh, oh, ooh, that, what? So people found their way to spirituality and mediums through gypsies and card readers and palm readers and tarot cards. And if you happen to be in the neighborhood or if you happen to be at a fair and you had 35 cents, you could have some cards read or your palms read or whatever. When I was a teenager, I saved up my money, and that was the most life changing event. I went to the palm reader, and she told me that I had this gift and I could communicate with the dead, and I would be pivotal in helping people to understand that there is a very thin difference between the two worlds. And I sat back and I thought, well, well, I get that I understand energy and I get that this is spirits and I'm okay with that. But how the hell is anybody going to look at me and think this woman's not think this woman's batshit crazy. She said, but I just sat back and I went, huh. And then as soon as everything started to come together, I started to acknowledge the gift. It started to flow. Ager had started to be acknowledged. And there were all kinds of things happening in this world that made humanity wake up and take a look that spirituality and spirit energy is not that far away.
Okay, so I know you mentioned religions. Did your parents were they a certain religion?
She said, oh, yes. My parents were Jewish.
Oh boy.
She says, talk about mm, a very habitual, ritual, fearful, uh, kind of way for them to live. They were afraid of everything. They didn't have
Right.
money, and they were afraid that everything was always going to be taken away from them. They were fearful people, and religion and Judaism had a great deal to do with that.
I wonder if that comes from the Holocaust and what happened in the Holocaust, and if it's um, If it's passed on, that fear is passed on through DNA.
Well, um, it's totally a possibility because there is cell memory, she says. But along with that cell memory, your soul has to have that contract to be with this body at this time for that soul memory to take place. Um,
Wow, interesting.
hold on. So I forgive me. She's smoking, right? She's sitting back and she just with the long cigarette thing, and she looks quite like Cleopatra in like a 30s costume tonight.
Oh.
And she's lounging on a lounge chair. And again, I'm sorry, what was the question?
No, it was just we were talking about how there's a possibility that there's cell memory from the Holocaust
Oh,
that's passed on.
yes, she said cell memory is a real thing. And again, with the right contract, with the right, and when I tell you, when I say contract, I mean things that were not, even though these folks that died in the Holocaust contracted it, but there were still things that they left that they didn't experience here. So they come back, they want to reincarnate to settle whatever that is that they hadn't figured out in that lifetime. And when they come back, that DNA, that cell memory comes with them.
Is it true? I had heard, I think it was through Cryon, that Jewish people are the only people that reincarnate with each other. In other words, um, they're like the keepers of information or something like that. Does that make any sense?
You know, she says, I'm a big fan of Cryon. Lots of that information that Cryon puts out there is dead on. She said, but I'm going to call bullshit on this one.
Okay. All right. Because it sounded kind of weird to me. I would think that there wouldn't be uh, a race. I don't want to call it a race, but a religious that
She says,
connection.
think about it this way. If that was the case, if that were true, then then the fact that we're all the same would not hold true.
Right, exactly. And that's why I'm asking because it just doesn't make sense to me. So, okay. All right. Awesome. Let's see. How did you get famous? How did that all happen? How did you go from being just a regular psychic to all of a sudden just being called upon, and then getting just famous?
She says it was dumb luck. She says, I moved out to California, and I had a reading with somebody, and they said, "Oh my God, I really think you can help my friend. Would you mind?" And I said, "Of course not. Of course I would never ever mind helping anyone." Well, that someone that she helped, she says, happened to be a famous Hollywood person, not a actor but a producer, and he brought
Okay.
her out to a party, and she says the rest is history. She says just dumb luck. Somebody that knew somebody that knew somebody.
Oh, wow. Okay, and so was it a really fast, move to being famous, or was it like a slow? from then on, or was it pretty quick?
No, it was a progression, to be honest. After that party, my readings picked up and I got word of mouth famous. Um, and it's kind of like the mediums in Hollywood today. There's a few of them that their go to, and then you know they kind of get their word of mouth around. And that's how I picked up a lot of readings, and I was doing really well. I was abundant and lucrative. Some liked me, most liked me. Once in a while, you get one, not so much. Um, and then I met somebody by the name of Douglas, Mike Douglas. Mike Douglas is a talk show king, and he's one of the first people that ever had a talk show.
Hmm.
And it was an afternoon talk show, and I had one uh, one interview with him. I was picked up with Johnny Carson, and then so on and so forth.
And how did you like being famous? Was that something that you enjoyed, or was it something that made you feel uncomfortable?
Well, with fame comes responsibility. You can't go, okay, I like the money and I like the cars and the vacation and everything that the fame affords me, and not be willing to take the responsibility of um, losing your anonymity and losing your ability to go out, in public without people saying, "Can you talk to my mother?" So it's a double-edged sword, and at the beginning, it was a little bit of an adjustment, and I liked it. I'll be honest with you, I really did like the attention. Um, you get used to it, and it's okay, and you deal with it, and it's fine. She says, by the end of my life, I get tired of it. It was like a wave.
So, do you feel that it changed you, that maybe it changed your way of being less authentic?
The fame, you mean?
Yes.
No, honey, I was authentic down to my very painted toenails every damn day of my life.
That's great. That's great to hear because fame can change people,
Oh, yeah.
and and it's usually not for the good. So if you were able to stay grounded, then that's a very good thing.
Well, yeah, I could, and spirit helped me stay grounded, because you're right, it's very easy to get lost, in the trimmings that come with the fame. And, it is. But no, spirit helped me stay grounded. I feel like I was my authentic self every day. I didn't sell out for anybody, and I didn't care who didn't like what I said.
Did you ever get asked to do something you didn't want to do?
She's talking about one time that she was asked to channel, um, for a friend. Her son was murdered, and she was asked to channel her murdered son. And he came through, and just because I knew him so well, And just because I knew his mom so well, I understood that healing could start. But before healing could start, she needed to know what happened. I necessarily didn't need to know. But that was it. That would be the one time.
Oh, okay. Not something weird Hollywood type stuff that I was thinking about when I asked that question.
No.
Okay. All right. Um, Sylvia, I know you had a son, but I don't know much about your marriage. I mean, if you even had one, were you married? And if so, how long was it a happy marriage?
Everything has its purpose. The purpose to that marriage was my son. He was my companion. We butted heads at times, but loved each other deeply. He was my twin flame, to show me the good, the bad, the everything. The marriage lasted for 3 short years, and he not only drank, but it wasn't a good union, and I didn't talk about it because why? It was done, it was over. I learned what I needed to from it, and then I moved on.
Okay, so that's why we had not heard a whole lot about it. Oh, what wh- I had heard that you had died, but I had no idea what you died of.
So it was simply my time to go, if you're asking. And it was simply my time to go because my contract was over. I completed and did everything that I came here to do. And she makes me feel like towards the last 5 years or so of her life, that her color started to fade. It started from about 5 years before, and she just like the her glow just started to fade. And what finally took her was the effects from her beloved cigarettes.
Ah,
She said I had COPD, I had um, emphysema,
yes.
and
Horrible disease. Horrible.
COPD, and I eventually just stopped breathing, and it was a result of those. But I didn't give up my cigarettes.
Yeah. Most people don't. Even when they get emphysema, they still smoke them.
Well, in that lifetime, that was uh, my go-to, my stress relief, my companion. And when I started, they handed you kids cigarettes. Here you go, kid.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So it was a lifelong addiction, and I liked it. There was no reason I felt like I should stop. Well, it wasn't healthy. Well, I know what happened over the other side, so might as well make me happy.
Did you ever do any drugs? Any recreational drugs?
She says if you consider martini here and there a recreational drug. She says, but I did like to have a drink every now and then.
Okay. All right.
She didn't have any
So now,
addictions, though. She's not making me feel like it was a problem. She just like it, chill out.
right.
Hmm.
Yeah. All right. Did you ever take advantage of your gifts for monetary purposes, as in, obviously not to read people or just do psychic stuff, but more like just to get rich,
The
like
lottery or going to Vegas and gambling, you mean?
right, stuff like that. Yeah. Hmm.
Well, no, because they don't work like that. You can use your intuition when you go, right? I mean, that's what people do anyway. I feel like you want to
Yes.
go 22 black, right?
Right.
Come on, roulette. But my gifts, our gifts, everybody's gifts. If you think for some reason that you're going to hit the lottery, um, good luck with that. But it's generally not how it works. Give it a
Okay.
shot, manifest it. See if that manifesting shit works. But on this, I'm going to tell you that my bet is not.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So you wrote a couple of books. I read several of them. The one that really hit me was the one that was about the life of Jesus. I can't remember the book, the name of the book, and I couldn't find it today, but um, in that book, well, before I ask you about that question, what compelled you to write that book about Jesus' life?
I was having daily conversations with him,
Ah,
and we talked about it and felt like a good idea to write this book, and so we did.
so
Um,
you wrote it together with him?
I did, in the fact that I was channeling him as I was putting out there. Um, it was a collaboration, is what you just said.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, I wanted to ask you, I mean, I know that most mediums have a filter, and I wanted to ask you the information that was in that book. Now that you're on the other side, um, do you still feel that it's 100% accurate?
Well, hell no, honey. It was 100% accurate at the time because that was the information I was getting. You know, I don't care who medium, what medium, how good you are. Even if fucking Eric sits next to you, there's going to be stuff that you don't get 100% right or accurate. But it sure is accurate at the time it's coming in because that's what you hear.
Right.
On this side right now, is it different than what I thought? Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I'm asking so what should I take out of that book that as truth and what it wasn't?
Well, I'm going to give you a secret for taking out of any book, any movie, any story, any fable. There are truths in everything, bar none. And your truth might be different than the next person's truth. So when you're looking and reading at all this information, what you feel inside resonates. You feel like, yes, this is how I feel. This feels like home. That's the part that you take out as truth. If you feel like at any point of time when you're reading something, listening to something, um, wherever, if it doesn't sound right to you, then fuck, it's not right for you. Leave it aside and take what works for you. So
Okay.
if you feel like there are parts of what I wrote that touched your soul, they're the ones you take. If you feel like there's some that just were like meh, yeah, they're the ones to leave.
Well, it was mostly, I mean, I was intrigued that you were able to say or point out the exact date of Jesus's birthday, and I believe it was sometime in June or June 4th or something like that. Um, which shocked me, of course, because we celebrate Jesus's birthday in December. Um, so, that kind of opened my eyes to see um, that at least in the Catholic religion, which is where I was brought up, that I had been lied to. So it kind of led to other things for me to do research, and come to realize that, a lot of information that's in the Bible might not necessarily be true. So I don't know, I was just really interested to know what the real birthday of Jesus is, if it was June 4th or whatever the day was in the book, or if it was a different day. So it's more like factual wondering in my part more than anything.
Honey, the fact of the matter is that Jesus Christ came to this earth and he lived in such a way to show us and be an example to us so that we could take away from his life non judgment and love, even the people that were set to kill him. Does it really matter what day that he was here? Those types of facts really matter in any given situation, unless it's a court of law. Because there are others out there that will give you other dates. Uh, was June 4th right? No, I'm going to tell you it wasn't right. Was December 25th right? No, it wasn't right. Was September whatever right? No, it wasn't really right. And I could tell you a date here, but nobody's going to be able to prove the fact. So, what difference does factual information have any bearing, by the way, on this, and any bearing on why Jesus was here and what he did?
That's a good point. Yep, absolutely. You have a good point there.
She
All
sits
right.
back and she puffs.
Let's see. What was your favorite celebrity that you met and why?
Burt Reynolds, because I had a crush on him. He is handsome. She says, I'm not lying about that.
Has he passed away?
No,
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, do you party with him now?
no, he's still here.
Ah, okay.
She's like, meh, when he gets up here, I'll welcome him.
Awesome. Well, that is all the questions I had. Was there anything that you wanted to share with us or what you wanted us to talk?
She says, I'm always happy to talk to people. I want to tell them what it's like up here. I'm always happy to answer questions because, in my frame of reference, it's like paying it forward because of all the spirits that communicated with me. I like to help. I like to be there for you. And tap on me anytime. I'm always happy to answer questions.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know, Marie, do you have any questions? Okay.
Nothing here.
All right. Well, you know what? Thank you, Sylvia. We are honored that you were here with us and that you took the time to, give us all this information and share with us. And we want to thank you so much.
She says you're very welcome. And it was fun sitting here chatting with you ladies.
Oh, it was wonderful. Thank you.